the more I got into personal growth and development, it actually felt like I was being taken out of living my life to grow. And that was something that I had never felt kosher with. I was like, there's something off about that entirely. And I'll be damned if I continue to run my business so out of integrity with myself. And so at that point, once I had proven to myself that the Financial First Aid as a private podcast worked, I was like, oh, hold on. Because I have all of this content, I have all of these really potent, powerful tools. It's just the medium that is making this program intense for people.
All right, everybody, welcome to another case study episode. Today we have Stefania Mariaa on. I actually met her on Threads. So I've been going back to Threads recently. I joined it when it started. I played around a little bit. This is in Lindsay style, is like, there's a new thing. And then I stopped doing it. But I went back because I was like, the conversations here are really cool and they feel very casual. And I was getting tagged in a lot of private podcast stuff. And so I was recognizing, I was like, okay, if I'm getting tagged and there's convos happening around private podcasts, I need to be there. And so I think I met you on a thread. What a great name. And I was seeing what you were up to and I was like, oh my gosh, you should come on our show. I want to chat with you, especially just in the different use cases. And I think it was something about the comment and the way you said it. I was just like, that sounds cool. I feel like she has a unique perspective on this. And so we are learning about each other, on this episode, the three of us. And yeah, I'm really excited that you're here, Stefania. And we would love to start you off by just kind of sharing what your business is and who you serve and your model, I guess, your business model quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, everyone, my name's Stefania. We've never met before. You can call me Steph. I think the best place to start with is just like a real simple question of what matters more to you right now, power or money? Because my business model is that I serve two different paths to the same juncture. At any point in time in your life, you're going to feel like, oh man, I feel really powerless in this spot, or I feel really rich in this spot. And I'm committed that you feel rich in all areas. So sometimes that means we have to go look at the details of your money and clean some stuff up. And then there are other times it's like, we got to go look into the details of your mind and clean some stuff up there too. And so a lot of the work that I do is, my branding is naturally very gritty and wild and out there because I want to work with humans, like people who truly want to be human, not like spiritual gurus, not necessarily yogis, but also not necessarily billionaires working a corporate job, but like the kinds of people who are like, listen, I want to have money. I want to have power. And at the same time, I want to live a life that is truly worth writing a book about.
Love that.
Cool.
So the model,
I like
basically,
Yes. Go ahead.
the model is that basically I'm a coach, and if there's something you need, you ask it. And then I probably have an array of library content I have, some sort of tool that's going to back you there. And for the last 4 years, I have been an online coach. I work privately and in groups, but I more so cultivate experiences for people to go through that speak to a very specific community experience. Like I'll have a program that's about self-gaslighting. And then I'll have a program that's about working with your inner teen and money stuff. And so it really depends on what my community needs. And I just show up and serve it because my experience is just like all over the map. So I just want to give it away.
Now I can see where private podcasting fits into the way
Yeah.
you see all of this 100%. So tell us a little bit about when you found out about private podcasting and then you're like, okay, this is definitely something I need in my business.
Yeah. So I believe you actually interviewed Angie Jordan
I did.
prior.
We did. I should say,
And
not just me.
yeah,
I
yeah.
did. Nora was present as well.
I was there.
So,
Also
so I love Angie. She's been on me about getting a podcast started because, I've got different views and perspectives and opinions of how people could look at power and money. And she's like, you need to get a podcast started. But she's also a huge advocate for private podcasting. And at the time, I was like transitioning out of a community that was where a lot of my business was originating. And I was like, you know what? Let me just try the private podcast route first. And I created like my very first product, which was the Financial First Aid, which is just honestly just a tool you could have in your pocket if you end up running an overdraft, getting buyer's remorse, like just little tools, not to fix your money crap at all, but to be the Band-Aid for when life happens. And I pre-sold it. I had like 10 people sign up before I even recorded one episode. And I was like, wait, all right. And then I just recorded episodes, released them one at a time, and people were still signing up. And now it's something that like I just tack it onto my mailing list. And then someone who's brand new to me, they can just opt in and they listen to this tool. And then I get these reflections in my Instagram DMs all the time being like, oh my God, I didn't even realize how much my life was being controlled by what did or did not happen in my bank account. And so I was like, okay, this private podcast thing, it works in a way that doesn't require more of me. Like as a business owner, I don't want something that I have to invest a tremendous amount of time and energy in beyond what the ROI is in essence. And so the only thing I cared about, I was like, I don't even promote this product. But every single month, I'm having people enroll, kind of self opt in, and it pays for itself. And then all of these people get these tools that they otherwise would not have access to. And truth be told, no one's going to log into YouTube and be like, what do I do when I have an NSF fee? Like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, I've already proven to myself that it works. And I was in this stage in my business where I've been running my work for 4 years. There's a shit ton of content. I don't know if I could swear on this podcast, but there's so much content. And I realized that this library was actually becoming really heavy for my students. And they weren't making it through the content because they'd have to log into the app, watch the video, and it was just taking them out of their life. And I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I don't want you leaving your
Mm.
life to work on your money. In fact, working on your money should just be a byproduct of your life. But up until that point, the only communities I had been exposed to were structured that way. So you would sign up for a program, you'd have to sit in front of your computer, listen, and even in fact, the instructor would be like, don't be cooking, don't be cleaning. You got to be in front of the computer. You're not
Yeah.
present, right? And you're like, oh
Turn
my
out take
God.
away all the tabs. Yeah, close all the
Yeah.
tabs.
And I started realizing that the more I got into personal growth and development, it actually felt like I was being taken out of living my life to grow. And that was something that I had never felt kosher with. I was like, there's something off about that entirely. And I'll be damned if I continue to run my business so out of integrity with myself. And so at that point, once I had proven to myself that the Financial First Aid as a private podcast worked, I was like, oh, hold on. Because I have all of this content, I have all of these really potent, powerful tools. It's just the medium that is making this program intense for people. What if I just reshifted it? And
Mm.
so the next thing I did was I converted one of my online video programs into a private podcast. Same thing. People were buying it. People were excited. People were like, oh my God, this content is not so heavy anymore. It's not, doesn't scare me as much.
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
that's
so
what I want.
interesting. Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to relate to what I have to teach you. It's macroeconomics.
Ooh.
I don't want you to have to relate to me like I'm your stuffy university professor teaching you data and decisions. I'm teaching you a way of relating to your money and power that should be easy to incorporate. Whether you're
Mm.
walking your dog, like having a bath, playing with yourself, although I don't recommend that one, incorporating what I have to teach should not take you out of your life, because if it does, then I am not doing what I've come here to do. And so since then, literally, I've hired an assistant, which was my first hire ever. And her job is literally to help me create these private podcasts. And so she's taking some of my older courses, redesigning them. And I'm like listening to the episodes. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I love that.
And and in the process, she's having a ton of fun learning about how to create podcasts from original content. And then now I'm actually getting to sit with what kind of content do I want to create, because I'm not trying to sell something that was already heavy.
Mm.
And so since then, like we've got the repurposing of old courses. I decided I was going to throw away a lot of the programs that I made and do something different. And so as of today, I run a membership container, and those calls will be on private podcast. The coaching level of that membership will get their own replays via private podcast. My private clients are going to get their replays via private podcast. Because if you can have it playing in the background as easy as opening up your phone, it's going to have less resistance naturally to you just
Mhm.
incorporating it. And there's something to be said about something you hear in passing that you just automatically start doing. And so if I'm playing in the
Mm.
background and all of a sudden you passively start having deeper respect for every dollar, I've done my job. If in passing you're like, wait a minute, is the way that I'm using my time, money, and energy an extension of my self respect? And that question pops into your head once, I've done my job, because that's all I'm here to do is have you respect yourself so profoundly that how you use any one resource is an extension of that. Whether it's you come to work with me through power concepts or money concepts, that is the intention. And I'm finding that with private podcasts, whether it's a freebie or a paid course, it makes it so much easier for people.
Yeah.
I don't want
I
to make shit hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there is something very tricky about teaching money because people have their shit, right? Their baggage
Mhm.
that they bring to it. So when we always talk about this, like private podcasts are way less friction. They don't have to get an account. They don't have to log in. They don't have to sit somewhere. So you're adding all these layers and it's who wants to like look at their shit, right? No one wants to like really examine it. That's already scary. It's like literally inherently scary. And so you're basically saying, because I teach this concept that is inherently scary and is a pretty big problem and is like a psychological issue that people have, I better make it as easy as possible for them to be able to get it because they're going to come up with every excuse as to why they can't. And when you buy a money program, right, you're like, oh, this is going to solve everything. And sometimes the act of buying is like the thing that makes you feel like you did it rather than signing in and doing the thing. So that already stuck out. And I love that you're like truly aligning your values and kind of your perspective on what you teach with delivery. And I don't think a lot of course creators think like that. I can tell you're very grounded and this is what I believe. And I better, you're asking someone else to live their life differently. I better like run my business differently, right? And walk my walk. So I'm getting that vibe from you, like left, right, and center with how you're explaining this. And so thinking about restructuring a business to be audio and actually represent like what you teach. I think there's a lot of money specifically, I think is a big one, but I think there's a lot of topics that could probably take that stance of I need to be this to be as accessible as possible because of XYZ. I think about parenting, that
Yeah.
coaching call we had where it's like you're dealing with a toddler and there's tantrums and it's those parents are at their wits end. Please do not make them do a whole bunch of stuff. Give them the things, right? And so money is a big one. And she's reminding me a lot of Andrea Crowder, Nora.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you say?
same.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm in one of her program or in a couple of her programs, but I
Mhm.
didn't actually take any of her programs until after I started my own private podcast
How
because I was
funny.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because really, Angie's on my ass about the podcast thing all the time. So at some point, I had to listen to
Sure.
the woman. And then once I experienced it, I was like, okay, hold on. I know now how to deliver it. I better get on board with experiencing it too. And
Totally.
so, when you say, like, oh, I can see if you really want to make sure that your delivery process is in alignment with your values, I look at that even in terms of like my sales process.
Oh,
If my
sure.
sales
100%.
process is adding intensity, then expect it to be an intense container.
Yeah.
I really refining all of it. And so when I started exposing myself to all of these different audio programs, I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, there's just this way where, in Andrea has like a bunch of freebies. That was like my first kind of taste of it. And I was like, oh, there's this way where I don't even have to be fully present in what she's saying and it's getting in. And
Mm.
when it comes to particularly the way that I teach, because I teach the gritty stuff, like at what point does generosity become bribery? That's the kind of conversation I like to have. At what point is your relationship to money really because you have an inner teen that's an intensity junkie? Like, these are the conversations that people come to me to have. We're having these hot, sensational topics that can be naturally activating for people. I don't want to have to
Mm.
activate them through their resistances. I want them
Mm.
to have this cheeky, fun, playful experience of like they're just sitting at home cleaning and they're also getting their money cleaned too.
They're
Like,
burning energy. I think there's something about like movement, right? Where it's like, oh
yes.
shit, this is heavy. I'm walking. I'm okay. I'm safe. And I'm like moving this through my body. There's something there too that I think is really powerful versus I'm stuck in the seat and here's this person telling me I better do it this way. I better do it this way. I have to log in here. Like, so interesting.
And
I love
consider, I don't know about you, but I don't listen very well when someone tells me I have to do something in
that.
one
No,
specific way.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of my work, even prior to converting over to private podcasts, has been like, what if the formula for wealth is the prison? What if that's actually not true because your formula is unique to you? So, how can we tap into that for you to have such deep reverence for who you are, what you're here to do, that you design your life to ensure you're resourced. We're not all here to make Amazon. In fact, if we did, Amazon
Yeah.
even wouldn't even be successful because its business would be
Mhm.
homogenized. But what allows us to have unique, independent, and variable experiences is that we do let ourselves out. Why would our wealth and ability to accumulate wealth be any different than
Yeah. Totally.
These are very difficult topics for a lot of people, right? They cause, like you said, they can be activating or triggering, and being able to consume it in a way where, I mean, I know I get triggered when people are like, close all your tabs. I'm like, no, I've got things open. Please don't tell me how to, it just where it's your physical environment, it's your physical state. So I love the fact that you've created, and you're so thoughtful about your audience, that you've created this space for them to be a lot more likely to get the results that your training and that your content will help them provide than if they were forced to sit at a computer watching a screen. Like I'm assuming, right? And metrics are, this is a little bit hard when you're dealing with this topic to measure success, if you will, but I'm guessing you have a lot of feedback from clients, and probably, feedback about their experience and the content that they may otherwise have had the opportunity to consume if it was in a different format.
this is actually super side, but yes. And I have to thank Hello Audio for that. I want to give you this explanation. For the last 4 years of my business, I have never collected one testimonial. I never asked for it. I never requested it. I never even received someone being like, oh my God, that call was so potent and powerful. Like, I never even registered in my head. When I converted over to private podcast, I invited people to direct message me because there's a degree of separation, right? So, unlike coming into my app, I don't see you. I don't know what you're receiving. I don't know what you're looking at. And so there's a degree of separation with the private audio, but then I actually invited people to message me. And then all of a sudden I was getting these messages from people who were like, "Oh my God, my son just lost a 24 karat gold watch from my grandfather." And I normally would have completely freaked out, but because I had just done that audio, I was totally relaxed and realized he just washed his hands and he took off the watch and he forgot that it was in the bathroom. I would have never known that. But because of that degree of separation, I was like, "Wait, I wanna know what's going on for people." And naturally, that called forward like, "Oh, I can see the results now that would have been lost in the video," because people wouldn't have even made it through watching the video to be able to
Mm.
implement whatever it was
Yeah.
that I was teaching them.
It's like they're
Yeah,
And
missing
so
so
the
it's both.
gold.
You're inviting them and they're actually consuming.
exactly. And so now I'm actively seeing results. And so many people were like, "Thank you so much for converting to private podcasts because I just can't sit in front of a screen again."
Yes, yeah, same. Ditto. Yes, to all of that.
Mhm.
Just
I
can't
mean, it's
do
how a
it
lot of
anymore.
people feel. Yeah,
Yeah.
and how important is this? It's transformational content that we're
Mm.
trying to get into their ears, or into, we
Their
want them to
head,
consume
literally.
it, yeah, in their head, and they if they never listen to it, if they never consume it, because we've put up some barriers that, we didn't make it accessible. It's like, how many more transformations are you now creating just by
Mm.
offering it in this format, which is awesome. And I'm curious, do you feel more connected to your audience because they're engaging? Because I'm sure they do, because it's a very intimate, audio is very intimate. But are you, with through these DMs, are you also feeling more connected to them as well?
I'm like more and more and more and more and more excited just to convert entirely to like I'm still in the middle of the
Yeah.
process of the change for me, but I can already tell like so much more is opening.
Wow,
Like they whether it's like from one of my paid programs or even my freebies, I actually feel like people are really getting it. Because at the end of the day, you could just do my freebies for our entire relationship together. But if you're actually implementing that freebie,
Mm.
my purpose and mission is still being fulfilled. Because what I find with a lot of people, they'll do these free masterclasses and they just become this consumptive thing. Like, oh, I'm taking another
yes.
masterclass.
Yeah.
Even like $200 courses. How many times have we bought a $200 course that we never did? And so I would much rather you have, again, reverence for your time, money, and energy. That if you're going to listen to a masterclass, that it gets implemented. That if you're going to pay for a course, it gets implemented. It doesn't sit as this thing that you did once or not even do fully. Ultimately, you kind of secretly resent
Mhm.
because it wasn't in alignment for where you are. You just thought it was going to save you from something.
Mm.
Yeah. You don't want your
And
people
so,
buying things as insurance policies. You want them to
Yeah.
actually use it.
yeah. And it's like, even if you never pay me and you do one masterclass and that changed one thing in your life, that is just as valuable to me as someone entering my mastermind. And I think that's where the connection between me and my audience has expanded exponentially because with the
Mm.
videos, there just wasn't that feedback loop. Even though we think that there is because it's like, oh, leave a comment below or whatever.
Or
With a
conversion rates or
master
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
something, right? Like with, I've released a free masterclass via private podcast called Clean Money, Filthy Rich. And
Ah.
that one in itself, the feedback I get from it, I'm like, oh, this person is going to transform their life. It's not about me. It's about what that person gets to
Mm.
create with my content. I'm just the channel. And so whatever they get, like that matters so much to me. And I think there's this way where like I have done free classes, I've done free videos left, right, and center. That's one of my lead gen tools is like, I'm so bored, guys. I work 20 hours a month. Let me serve you for free. And so I do these free events all the time, but then no one watches them. And I'm
Mm.
like, well, I don't want you to miss out because you missed the live event. I don't want you sitting in front of a screen because you're not with me
Or
live.
having to arrange a schedule or be in the right
Yep.
time zone.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like you miss the benefit of working with me live if you can't attend a live event. And then
Mm.
simultaneously, creates like a new barrier because now you're just watching a replay versus
Mhm.
let me listen at my own pace. Because one of the other cool things about Hello Audio is an hour masterclass can be 6 separate episodes, like
True.
split up.
Yeah.
So someone can listen to one episode and be like, oh, never mind, I'm going to go have a bath. And I don't want to listen to anything. There's a way where it's conscious opt in versus like
Mm.
grueling, self-sacrificial, I have
Mm.
to make it through this thing. And then again, the
Oh,
resentment just
yeah.
harbors because you're not using your energy in the most aligned way because that hour where you're grueling could have been spent following whatever has vitality flow through you.
That's fascinating. There is something to this because we do have, and there are creators that choose different ways to present content. And I know for me personally, as a busy human, right? Because I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of busy people out there. When people are like, oh, you have to make it at this time, or I'm not sending out replays, like you have to. And I was like, that feels like you don't respect anything that's happening in my life. And while I appreciate the fact that this is the right time for you, and I'm not mad about it, but please understand that I would have found that value, your content really valuable, but all of a sudden now you're putting up these barriers for me to experience that transformation. And as a consumer, that's hard. But
It
this opens
feels
that up,
gross.
right? And it also
There's the
feels
new
gross.
thing there's the new thing where people are charging $200, $300 for replays on the front
Yes,
end, and I'm like, I've seen it, and I was just like, "I get it,"
I
and
get
they're
it.
like, "You can pay for the replay, otherwise you show up live." But, like, you create this feeling of urgency, and it's triggering certain people to act and behave in a certain way, which is super manipulative, and
Yes,
so I like what you're coming from, what you're showing is this is the opposite of where we should be going. Like,
yes,
no one needs to buy my thing under that guise or rearrange their life or get a babysitter because they're taking the content seriously. I'm like doing like,
right?
air
The
quotes.
air
Like,
quotes. Yeah.
yeah, like how paternalistic to be like, if you don't show up live, then I guess
Then you
you have
must
enough
not
money that you
care.
can pay $200 or you don't care about changing
Yep.
your life. Like, what? Why would I ever want to engage with someone like that intimately, like connect with
Yes.
them? There's already a line being like some level of disconnect because of the way they're treating me. But like, it's sad because unfortunately, we can look at these people that are doing that and they probably have big numbers. Their show up rates are probably better. We could look through it, but like, what are you actually doing? I think it takes someone who like actually cares about their people to be like, I don't want to force anyone into this. Like, I want them, consent to agree to do this and opt in, like you said. And that's where we should be doing everything from. And what I'm hearing from you, Stefania, is like, it's having a powerful, I think, reframe for you as the creator with the audience. Like I'm hearing, I don't care if you give me money or it's a free thing that makes the change. Like the change is being made and that is uplifting the thing that actually matters. And I'm not saying that these guys, because every single person I've seen doing it is a male in the industry who has a very big reach. I'm not saying that these guys don't care. I think they care on some level, but
Maybe,
what they care
maybe,
about, maybe. Yeah. So, like, depending on what they care about, but like the level of respect, when you treat people with respect, that comes back to you, right? I mean, common shit we all know as humans.
right?
And yeah, I'm just like, I can hear in your voice, like, there is much more excitement, it sounds, around creating content because now that's the hard part about being a creator is sometimes it feels like we're screaming into the void. And when you get that feedback loop, which you brought up, and you're having that impact, that's the momentum right there that every business owner needs, especially a creator, especially a teacher, a person who has to show up. And I think that, yeah, that's like priceless. That's the thing that keeps us going. And yeah, the money is great. And like the the opt-ins and the conversion rates are all great. But are you doing what you're setting out to do? Because if you're not, that's only going to last so long, which is why I think we see a lot of overturn in this industry of like people leaving or starting new businesses or something because they never get to that magic thing where the content they're teaching it and like the transformations that they're having are more powerful, than anything else they've ever done. And that's what we're all looking for. So kudos to you for finding it. It's awesome that it's audio because I'm like, of course it is. But at the same time, I think what I'm hearing is like that level of creation for your people is that's what we all want. And that builds a business because that audience will follow you, they will buy all your things and your feed will fill up with your face of your audio content, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if you could tell, but I was so antsy. I was like, yeah, let's talk about this like with urgency and pressure
Go
based
back to
sales.
whatever you want, all of it.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Because here's the thing, right? Every once in a while, like I will do, hey, if you want to sign up early, like here's a different price. I had a 2.5 month sales process on one of my programs before I even launched it. Cause I was
Dang.
like, you guys don't want to pay $500 in one shot. And I don't want to do that to your nervous system either. So why don't we just split that $500 evenly across 4 months? And so most of my sales came 3.5 months before the program started. For me, it's not that I don't use time-based pricing or like, hey, you got to sign up before this date, but it's what's it serving? Like, if I'm doing a lower price point because I want you to come in, it's serving something. Like my membership, I do like an intro offer because there's no content in the membership yet. It'll go up because there's more content for people to consume, but there's nothing in there right now. So come in at this early bird rate and I'm going to work with you live. It's going to be great. But like, again, what does it serve? So when you have these people who do like, oh, buy the $300 replay. And if you don't do it now, you're going to miss out because it's going to be $700 to buy it afterwards. It doesn't have reverence, the deep embodied
Mm,
sense of respect. But it's the
hmm.
thing is that most people go, well, I'm just respecting my money. Reverence isn't about your
Yeah. Or
money or
I'm
my money,
respecting my time. Yeah. Hmm.
right? It's about, do you respect money because it doesn't matter who's in possession of it? Do you respect time because it doesn't matter who's in possession of it? Do you respect energy because it doesn't matter who's in ownership of it? If I were to really respect my clients' time for their busy lives, then I have to look at what is going to be the easiest way for me to cause the transformation that they've come to me seeking. Because if they didn't need or desire or ready, willing, wanting that transformation, they wouldn't have come to me. And there was a piece that you said around that's how you create a sustainable business, but it's
Mm.
also how you have clients when they're done and like done working with you who don't hate you.
Yes.
Always a positive.
Yeah,
Always a
always a
positive.
plus,
Like
for sure.
I every once in a while I play games. Like every financial mistake I've ever made was like on purpose, nearly, because I'm like, this is going to be a bad one, but I'm going to do it so I can learn the lesson. And I recently did this where I spent 5 grand with this like high pressure sales experience. And so he like gets on the phone with me and he's like, hey, all you need to do is like put $2,400 down US and I'm in Canada. So like add another 30%.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, wow, he really wants my money. Like he really wants my money. And I was like, I don't think I'm your ideal customer. He's like, nope, I totally got that. It's going to be like this custom kind of plan. It's this custom experience. And don't get me wrong, I really respect this guy. I respect his talent and his skill, but I'm not his ideal client. And so I was like, okay, I respect his hustle. So I'm going to follow this one. I'm going to take this 5 grand learning lesson because I could also feel the part of me that was like having self-doubt because pain-based marketing. So he introduced this self-doubt that wasn't really there before and that his program was the solution for it. But really, the solution for it would be like, is that useful? The self-doubt, is the questioning your ability to do something, is that helpful? And that would have cleared absolutely everything for me. Because 3.5 weeks later, someone asked me that question and I was like, off. But it was this, you have to do it now. You have to get there now. And I'm like, how can you guarantee that you're going to cause the results for me with that 5 grand spend? Go into the program. And what I've realized, I was like, one, I already knew I wasn't his ideal client. And two, what he offered to serve me really wasn't it either. Like I could show up, do all the steps 1 through 10, but I would have had to alienate my own values and my own integrity to follow through on them. And I'm like, if I have to abandon myself to do your process, we have a problem. And a lot of these high pressure sales experiences, whether it's private coaching, whether it's a course, whatever, whether it's just a sales funnel, it doesn't take into account who is the person on the other side. What are they going through? What history did they come from? What stories are they bringing with them? Because so many people opt for like a client avatar as if we're all the same. And so even with my clients, when they come to me, my first thing is like, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you're from. I don't know what your experience is. But what I do promise you is that you will have grace and gratitude for the vantage point you were raised in, even if it was underprivileged, because it made you who you are today, even if it was shit. But you were so capable of going through shit, but you're shit at going through good. So let's work on that set of skills. That way, I don't have to worry about what insecurities does this person have?
Mm-hmm.
We're all insecure. Every single last one of us have these moments of, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I don't need to address that. I need to address that, like, you've made it this far and you're still breathing and you're still kicking. So it tells me that you got it in you. So where do we go from here? And that's really more my focus. But that all comes down to whether they're ready, willing, or wanting. If someone's not ready to buy, it's not my job to pressure them to buy. If they're not willing to buy, like they're not willing to explore or dive into an inquiry, then I'm fighting with their willpower. And if they're not wanting, I don't know, but if you ever been on a date with somebody who doesn't want to be there with you, it feels awful for both parties. So why would we want to incorporate that into our business? Most of my clients come to me after 2 years of being in my content space,
Wow.
like consuming my Instagram, whatever the case might be. And that's also why I like the podcasts, because that's going to cause their own transformation that eventually, maybe one day, they are ready, willing, and wanting
Mm.
whatever program I have. I don't have to rush their process. I don't have to force a quantum leap for them to be a yes. They'll be a yes when and if it's time. That's it. I don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah. That detachment is huge because that also changes how you show up in your business and the things you focus on for sure.
I love this. I love how you've just shifted your entire business. And I know you're in the process of it, but to shift to serve your audience in a different way, in an elevated way that aligns with their values in a way that you know enhances their ability to get the results. So I'm curious because a lot of times we see folks that they kind of hop on the private podcast train and they're like, "Yep, I get it. I'm using all this." Usually they're sitting on a private podcast or an idea for a private podcast that they haven't gotten to yet, or something that's in the back of their mind that that's their like next thing. So do you have one that, like, an idea that you've been sitting on, or something you're like, yeah, I've wanted to do that, but I've got to get through the rest of this first? Is there one that, like a secret one, or one that you've been thinking about?
Oh, I'm going to out myself online. I love it. So, so part of the reason why Andy has been like on me to like release a podcast is because I have just like such different views on stuff. And I like to say it's because I'm morally gray. I don't care
It's a
how
good
you make
phrase.
money. That's not my place to judge. It's not my place to critique. It's my place to ask you, do you find that's like deepest sense of respect for you? If the answer is yes, sweet. I don't care otherwise. But one of the things that comes up is like I have a podcast that I'm working on. It's called Eating Cake. I mean, talking about ass or cash, that's anyone's guess because I talk about all of those things. But one of the things that comes up is, oh, I kind of want to have this private podcast that you subscribe to, that it's literally like my most sane beliefs, like my most
Uh,
like concern concepts, because I've got a few. And one of the things that has always bothered me is like whether I've created a YouTube video or even working on my public podcast, is there's this part of me that's, oh no, I'm going to have to fight with the internet on this one. That one cannot be public. I don't have the time or energy to battle the trolls and the Karens and the Britneys and the Ryans. Like, I just don't. But they're also valuable, fun, and entertaining for people who want to have that conversation.
yeah.
True.
Who like
Like,
self-select and say, yep, that's the kind of stuff I want.
right?
Yeah.
So to give you an example, like the name of my membership is called the Money Laundry. Not that kind of money laundry. But let's talk about the grittier things. Let's talk about the underbelly of wealth, and it's not what people think it is. Let's talk about what self-sacrifice and savior complexes actually create in the world. Because you think it's honorable to give away all your time and your money and your energy for free. But meanwhile, you're actually reinforcing a pattern that you say you're fighting against. Like, I have so many, and I'm kind of sitting on it because I'm like, I'm not sure how it looks. I'm
Mhm.
not sure what the branding is. I'm not sure about any of that. And I know that I'm fully capable of selling something without the brand. But I would also want to commit that it's something I could hold consistently. And so there's this way where I'm like, maybe I'm not as unhinged as I thought. Like, what happens if I rehinge? Does that offer just go away? So there's like little pieces. There's like little pieces I got to work on. But I think what makes it so cool is, there's actually nothing in the way of me, like, structurally being able to deliver that. It's now just about, like, me and my own shit.
Yeah. And the risk and the all the things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
so
like,
fun.
That's cool.
how risky is it really?
Mm. Are
Yeah.
you gonna die?
Am I gonna
Yeah.
but, like, I did a live stream on YouTube once, and it was literally just called "Cancel Me," because I got to this point where I realized, I was like, "What does that even mean? What is the actual loss?" Because what I've realized is the more that people don't like me, the more that people who do like me really like me. And again, those are who I want to serve because they're ready, willing, and wanting to receive whatever it is that I have. They're not ready, willing, or wanting. They're not for me anyways. I feel like through the private podcast, I'm starting to get to know myself deeper and get to know
That's
my
interesting.
like ideal client deeper too.
What do you attribute that to? Like, why do you think it's a private podcast that's doing that?
Because you mentioned like it's intimate. Like you
Mhm.
gotta be a certain kind of weird to let me in your ears. Like someone who's super
A different
straight
level
edge
of
is not.
access. Yeah.
Yeah, like, someone who's super straight edge needs a really linear experience with money. Someone who demands there be rules and formulas isn't gonna listen to me.
Yeah.
So the reality is they're not gonna download a podcast, which makes it even more accessible. So because there's no barricade between me and the content, it's actually much more precise for someone to be like, "Is this for me or
Mm.
not?" Because I don't really have to do this huge sales page. It's just listen to this audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice.
And so there is like a self-selection process. So the people who do come closer, I'm like, why are you coming closer? And every single one of them, there's like,
Yeah.
you're raw, you're real. I don't have to worry about being super spiritual. I don't have to worry about being super linear. I don't have to be anything. I know
Mhm.
that I can be human with you, which is what I
Mhm.
care about. I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to be 1% closer to what you find valuable. That's it. And again, it's that feedback loop because the only people who are messaging
Mhm.
me are the ones who I'm like, I like you.
Actually
Let me give you
listening.
this
Yeah, yeah,
other
yeah.
Yeah.
path.
They're engaged. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I also think it allows you to just create more content. Like you brought it up, like I'm able to just make more things and do more things and be off the cuff. And so the secret podcast that you're holding on to really like encapsulates that. But it's like it actually is really easy to just sit down and record something super quick and make a link and someone could listen. And so now it's just opening the floodgates of all this content that I've been holding back, whether it's feeling like I have to record a video, show up live, write a thing, write an email. It seems easier. And I'm finding that a common thread too with people who've really given in to the concept of audio and like really owned it versus just being like, oh yeah, I'm going to like add it to this course because of accessibility. It's like you, like Andrea, people who are like going all in. I think they're like, yeah, because I can create it faster and my people are asking for it. And Andrea's been able to launch a course freaking, it feels like once a month with her, but like, and it's because she can listen to her audience, right? And they're asking for stuff. And so then it's great. I'm just going to launch it right now. Is that cool, team? And they're like, yeah, sure. And she just does. But it's not just the listeners and your audience with the barricade to you, but it's you and the barricade to the content that gets to disappear too.
Yeah, and along that thread, a couple weeks ago, maybe last month, I don't know, time is ugh. I was walking my dog and I just had this like thought kind of drop in and I just grabbed my Otter Pilot. So Otter is like a transcription app. And so I just grabbed it. I didn't use voice notes. I grabbed that one because I was like, maybe it's a written post and I just need to brainstorm it. So I started recording it. And then that night, I got home from the walk and I was like, wait a minute, I could just upload this as a private podcast. And so I created this like, private podcast of me literally just working through something. And I called it tongue tied because I wasn't all the way through. Like I was in the middle of my own process.
Mm,
And then I just shared that link with the people in my Instagram broadcast community. I was like, here's a little sneak peek into like what's going on for me. And so there's also this opportunity, not just for like my clients to be closer to me, but for me to be closer to my clients. Let me really show you what it's like because it can
yeah.
break down the barriers and the barricades of, oh, here's this multi six-figure entrepreneur and what they're doing. And it's like, well, no, they're just as crazy as you are.
Yeah,
Just
100%.
right. And really shedding the light on the realities of whatever it is that I'm delivering to my clients. There becomes a separation between like teacher, student, or guru and subject. Like it breaks down that barrier and shows people I'm just as human as you are. And I might be working on something that's much grander in scale than you right now. But that's just because our growth isn't linear. We're going to cycle through this stuff. So let me show you how I'm moving through mine so that you don't feel so scared about yours. And that literally was like 45 minutes, maybe. That includes going on the walk and recording it,
Yeah, yeah,
coming,
yeah.
right? Coming home, creating an instant graphic, popping it up, releasing it. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of like, it wasn't organized. So I have to reorganize
Yeah,
stuff, but whatever, it worked.
it worked. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because if you had to put it in a membership site, I could just go through. There's a description you have to fill out. There's like it's so much more effort. Upload it sometimes to a video host first. It's a lot versus that direct. And the people then get access to it. I think that it's not even just the admin that we have to do to put it in these learning management sites, but that's also it. And it's they have to go log in and they have to click a bunch of stuff and they have to do all this versus you being like, here's a direct link to the episode is one way to do it. Or like it's refresh your episode, it's there, and they know exactly where to go. They're not gonna hit a roadblock of a, password that doesn't work anymore or something, and they could just get it. So quick delivery, quick asset creation for sure.
Well, and I think it's worth mentioning too, because it's a podcast, there's show notes that you get to have links in.
Oh, uh-huh.
Because you
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, like, oh, money's already deeply sensational. This literally worked out through Hello Audio. I had a client buy the piggy bank, which was like intro to financial intimacy. It's where I give people like the foundational tools and philosophies for the what I teach. Expenses, income, savings, debt, etc. This one person bought it, listened to it. And throughout the episodes, I would say if you need additional guidance or need additional support to integrate this content, come into my membership. She's
Mm-hmm.
not even done the course and she's like, yeah, I'm coming into membership. And so it creates this avenue where it's like very easy and like casual to upsell people because the upsell is of service, not because there's any sense of scarcity. I need to get this program now because it's where I am in the funnel of purchasing. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, wait, that's actually right. That's appropriate for where I'm at right now in this process of listening to this
Mm-hmm.
course. And so that was another evidence for me where I was like, oh, why not? Hello Audio is paying for itself because people are naturally self-selecting into these longer term memberships or different experiences just by how the content's delivered.
Yeah. And then they know what to expect for that other thing. They're like, great, I listened to this. I will listen to that. So I will buy this versus, wait, what kind of program is it? What's in,
When are
like,
the
what are
calls?
the
Yeah.
calls? Yeah, exactly. So good.
Yeah, it reminds
Awesome.
me, I think it was like a couple years ago, Matthew McConaughey released something with like,
His book?
no, he released
Or is
like
it like
a
a
program
really?
Oh,
and based on his book, but he released it with like Tony Robbins and like all those guys.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I just opted in because I like to opt into things and be like, what are other people doing? And
What are they up to? Yeah.
I have never seen a more disgruntled Facebook community
Oh, no.
because there was people who like thought these like VIP packages and they didn't realize how they were delivered or how it was experienced. But they had to buy the VIP package before the event took place. So they got all these extras because they're like, oh my God, this VIP package. But the extras were kind of useless. They didn't vibe with what's the point of this. And so, yeah, I
Mm,
could sell my membership alongside the piggy bank for sure. Or I could wait for someone to actually consume the content and self select me, like, oh, yeah, membership makes sense now.
yeah. So good.
I love that. Yeah. It's interesting. It's just I feel like with audio, you have so much less just less objections.
Hmm.
You don't have to worry about what time of day you listen to it. It's like and you're giving back so much control
Mm,
to the listener, like to your clients, to your customers, whatever they are to you. It feels so much better to them. And I think it just makes it, like I said, what you said, like less pressure, right? It's an
mm.
invitation and it's always coming from a place of service. It's not you're behind and you need this and your
Yeah,
life is going to
totally.
be horrific without it. It's like you don't need any of that. And as we've proven once again, people do buy audio like that.
Hmm.
That is a thing.
We have to keep saying
Yeah,
that.
I know. People really pay for audio, like courses and training. Yes, they do.
Yes, yes,
And they keep coming back to purchase
yes,
it.
and they
So,
repeat buyers, and yeah, 100%. This is really good. I'm curious, like, how you think a new person who, like, is actually, I
mm,
think audio is more for me, right? So you're somebody who's been in business a while, and you're making the switch right now. What advice would you give to someone about taking that plunge? Is there anything you've learned along the journey? I can tell your perspective is like, "Oh, I just do what needs to get done and to line up with my values and stuff." But if someone's, like, nervous about it, what would you say to them to help them maybe at least convert a couple other things to audio too, is another way to look at it.
Don't wait until everything's converted to start selling it.
Ooh. Mhm.
My hesitation to going to private audio was this, would people buy it?
Mhm.
And so I just bought like the basic and then I just put out the offer. I was like, would you guys buy this? A couple people were like, yeah. I was like, okay. I then created a sales page and then people started buying it. And I was like, I guess I have to make this bloody thing. And so then I made the first one. The first one wasn't from content I had already. It was just a real simple, like $33 offer. But as soon as I could prove to myself and have the evidence to confirm it, that yes, people do want that, everything else started flowing. And then it was like, okay, I can convert some of my other courses. That's not that where my focus is. So like my
Mhm.
assistant, she's converting one of my courses called License to Print, which is all about doing things your own way. She's working on converting those into podcast episodes. So it has its own feed, but that's not where my focus is on sales right now. She's got that handled. I'm focused on what am I delivering right now and am I selling it and then creating it, selling it and creating it. Someone else is working on the repurposing simultaneously.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I think sometimes we can get stuck on, I have to have everything perfect right now. Just work on proving to yourself that your beliefs about it are delulu. That's basically my premise. Is every belief that doesn't serve me, I'm pretty clear. I'm just going to go find evidence on what would. And so when I think I brought in $400 pre-sale from Financial First Aid. I made 6 episodes, took no time at all, uploaded them. And I took the month to do it. Like, I took my time. I didn't waste or, like, spend my whole week and be like, "I gotta get these 6 episodes." I was like, "Oh, they'll get one at a time. It's my business. It's how I run. They paid
Mhm. Mhm.
$33. They're gonna be happy either way." And then
Mhm.
once it was all complete, then it was like, "Oh, it's a repeat process." I've already
Mhm.
had people buy before it was created, proving that they want to listen. can I also prove to myself that people want it now that it is created? And literally every single month while I'm sleeping, someone's buying it. And yeah, it might only be $33. And that might not feel significant to a lot of people, but to me, that's evidence. And so every month I get an evidence. In fact, this morning at like 8:30 a.m. while I'm in the bathroom, I got a notification saying like, "Oh, you just got someone to purchase this." And I'm like, I didn't have to do anything for that. And so if you feel any hesitation, I'm talking to you, you're listening to me right now. If you feel any hesitation, prove your hesitation wrong. It doesn't have to be perfect
I
right
like
away
that.
because the other cool thing is you get to revise episodes
Yeah,
and
easily.
send out a little note being like, I didn't like that one. I wanted to serve you deeper. Here's a better recording. And then people aren't like, oh my God, I had to rebuy the program. They're like, oh, they're just giving me more. There's just so many ways to tie it back to I don't have to be perfect to make money. I don't
Mm.
have to have everything aligned. I can only focus on being 1% closer to where I want to be. If the hesitation keeps you from that 1%, then it's not serving you anyway.
I like how you like put yourself in creation mode. And I can tell
Mhm.
that's where you were like, I actually want to make things. And then you like assigned a team member or whatever to do some of the repurposing stuff. And I could see someone listening being like, okay, well, I can't hire a team member. And I would be like, if repurposing does feel good, go that way. Because I think what we were talking about earlier, this idea of like momentum for a business owner and connection with your audience, like it is really easy in Hello Audio to basically create a course feed is like what we typically call it. And that is an easy action. And if that's the action you need to take to do that momentum, which would probably take not even a day, right? Like probably a couple hours, depending on how organized your videos are for a course. And that's enough momentum. That's cool. But when you're looking for like, will this work to change my business or will this work to change content flow? Could this be easier? Could this feel better? Like you did that right. Make it not feel like a heavy price, right? Make it an easy yes. Make it content that you know your people need. And then guess what? It gets to be audio and easy delivery. That momentum is like this like forward energy. And I think course repurposing is fabulous and it's wowing people that have already paid you and all good things. Totally different energy. Just throwing out that juxtaposition to be like, well, you might not have a team member that can go through your stuff, but what maybe, are you feeling a little stagnant in your content creation? Is there an offer that you like haven't launched and you probably could, right? Like probably lean into that because that's going to make you feel different. And then the other one, like also get it done because that's a great add on for a product that you already have. Yeah. Just thinking about how you've been talking about creating content for your people. And that is very energy giving for sure.
Yeah. And because you get the feedback loop, if you include it,
Mhm.
that becomes the
Take notes on that,
testimonial.
people.
Yeah. It's
That's
like,
right. Tell them to message you. Tell them to DM
tell them to
you.
message you and like, tell me what really landed. Tell me what you're struggling with. Tell me what's coming up. And
Mm.
that kind of
It's
creates
almost like
and
they think they can
colors.
get coaching. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
getting coaching from you in DMs with that. It's like an
Yeah,
extension of the podcast content. So good.
exactly. In fact, I had someone reply to an email yesterday and because I'm shifting a lot of like my lens in my business as well. She messaged me and she's like, "Hey, I would love to know more about like why you're shifting your lens." I was like, "Cool, I'll make a podcast episode." Right? The request is already there, the invitation's already there. I can create the content, I'm happy to do it. And you're going to tune in because you want the answer. And then anyone who didn't ask that question is just going to find the answer interesting. Right? So even when
Yep.
people they come into my DMs, it's not that they're expecting coaching, but they get to share with me what's really real for them. And then I get to
Mm.
see, is there a gap somewhere? And I think even in the
Yep.
content
Yep.
repurposing, like there is just a truth that when you repurpose video content, not all of that content translates.
Totally.
And so there is a level of discernment that needs to be done to make sure that what you're teaching is as potent as it could be because you're going to be in someone's ear. And
Hmm.
so when you're designing something that's for the purposes of audio, it gives you a different frame of reference. So because I'm in the middle of the transition, I have created an offer that was purely audio. My brain, my mind, my orientation was this is in someone's ear. And I
Hmm.
have repurposed content. And now I'm delivering a live course that, as the replays are available, will become audio. There's three different
Hmm.
orientations as to how I'm delivering the content.
Yeah. And you get to play
And
with
so,
that and see results and how it feels for you. And yeah, totally.
exactly. And so
Cool.
I think it's important to do all three, really. Do one that you
Yeah.
know is inherently just for audio. Do one that's just strictly
Mm,
repurposed. And then do one where you're live, like you normally would be, but you're coming from the lens of when people listen to this again, they're only listening through their headphones.
mm, hmm
And just watch how
For
things
future
shift.
people coming into the program or something, if you decide to like evergreen it or something. Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
This conversation has been so awesome, so insightful, and
Hmm.
so it's just a different level, right,
Hmm.
than most conversations we get to have, and I love that, and I appreciate that,
Yeah,
so
I feel like
thank
we're
you so
catching you in
much
the
for that.
middle of it. We've never caught someone in the, like in the middle of the transition to audio. Like we had Brian on who was like very
Yep.
early in business, and that was cool to see his lens of this is actually the first offer I've ever put together. I'm like, whoa,
Yes.
that's cool. And now we have somebody who's been in business a while and is making a shift, and we're getting like your perspective. Like literally, you're reading us DMs that you're getting right as you're like live launching. And I think that's really cool. So there's definitely like an angle and a perspective that you're bringing to this conversation that we aren't typically having with some of our case studies. So totally appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked to be here. I have so much to offer. Let me just talk your ear off. So this was, if anything, a service to
With
me.
our episode, right? Like, of
Yeah, there
course.
you go.
Yeah, yeah. I will talk
Yeah.
nonstop if you give me the platform.
I love it. No,
You're our
I love
people,
it.
that's for sure.
Alright, should we do the final question? I know
Go for it.
you kinda gave us an answer a little, but this might be different, but if you had a private podcast with your life's ramblings, what would it be called?
So I definitely think that it would have to be tongue tied because
Yeah,
it's
it's a
literally
good name.
me working
Mm.
through shit I'm not clear on yet. Like, how do I
Mhm,
feel
mhm.
about this
Yeah.
thing? Like, how do I, every once in a while, because I'm exiting in certain communities, there's like teachings. When you leave a spiritual community or you leave a personal growth community, there's a moment where you're like, how much of that do I believe? What am I
Mm,
chewing on? And
Yeah.
one of the things that I work with my clients on a lot is I say, like, are you digesting what you're consuming? Have you really
Mm,
chewed on what you've heard? And have you swallowed the hard truths that are for you enough to take the nourishment of them? And so tongue
mm,
tied kind of incorporates that concept where it's like, I'm still chewing on it. I haven't even swallowed the truth yet because I'm not there. And
mm,
so, like, the first two ramblings that I did, I've taken them down because I'm going to reorganize them. But the first two ramblings I did was, oh shit, I actually don't have any desires in my life right now. And does that really work for me anymore? Does it work to be goalless? Because it did for a period
mm,
of time, but I don't know if that's true anymore. And then the other episode was like, did I let go of my hunger for certain things? Have I really just stopped being hungry for life because life's just good? And so it
mm.
allows people to get a peek into my brain, but it's literally like, don't expect insights here. So don't expect
Yeah,
cohesive
don't
thought here.
expect ROIs and yeah.
Not even just that. It's like, don't even expect good recording audio. It's like the tongue tied is like the most, it's where I'm unhinged before I'm rehinged somewhere else. Like it's really that it's rambling 100%. Because, and the great cool thing about it is like what I say in one episode may not be true for me in 3 episodes from now. That's it. And so
Totally.
I'm still playing with what that would look like, but that's 100% what I would do. And I think it's important for people to see it. So we'll see what
Mhm.
happens.
It's funny, you're one of the people that I'm like, "She's probably gonna launch this." Like, other people were like, "Oh, yeah, I would do this. I'll record it for my kids." But I'm like, this is probably coming out."
Well, and part of it was like, because I have the public podcast that I also host from Hello Audio as well, I was like, oh, maybe I'll just include those as segments. That's
Mm.
why I took it down. And then I realized I was like, no, I'm just a powerhouse user. It's fine. I don't need to
Just admit
incorporate.
it.
Submit it. It's fine. And so there is a part of me where that could actually just be like this kind of underground John Wick society of like
Mhm.
the messed up thought Steph's has. We'll just
Too
see.
good. We look forward to it. Let us know if you
yeah.
launch it. Um,
Absolutely.
Very cool. Well, this has been a super fun conversation. Thanks for peeling back the curtain, giving us definitely an insight into your brain and the way you think and the way you think about business. I think that's really a good takeaway too, right? And how that lines up with serving and offering audio. So yeah, this has been just a really great conversation. We're super glad you joined us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Threads. Yeah, I was going to say thanks, Threads, also for introing us.
It was just by happenstance, of course, because
Of
I'm
course.
still figuring
I'm
I'm still
sure we were
figuring out
meant to
that.
cross at some point with our like, especially Angie Jordan, like it was going to happen, but
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Threads was the magic thing. And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.